should be coming live right now. We're live, baby.
What's up?
Welcome to another episode of On Another Line Live. We have a dandy of an episode for you this evening. We're speaking with Kevin, the Baitman Baxter. It's going to be a good time. We're going to be showing you guys some new 6th Sense baits, as well as other baits that he has in and around his man cave there. So we are going to get after it. JR just sent me a text message a minute ago that he got all of his baits off his bait wall and he's starting a new one, which good luck, bro. It's a lot.
It's bad.
Been out to Grayson the past few days, caught some fish. 4 fish hit the deck for 2024 for me today. After this short intro, we'll get Kevin on stage here and we'll talk baits and fishing. Let's get it.
That's a life of a fisherman you wouldn't understand. Something you can't feel on dry land. You gotta get your arms way up in a cave and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. You gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G-Lumis trying to bet you like what you feel. Step on the deck, give it the world. Hello, welcome to my world.
Yeah, buddy. I hope everybody had an awesome Christmas and an amazing New Year. I can speak for myself. We'll let JR speak for himself in just a second, but I had a phenomenal one. Got a few things for Christmas that I was hoping for and got to spend some time with some friends and family, and rang in the new year the other day and had a great time sipping on some adult beverages in the way of bourbon. So without further ado, we'll let JR talk. But before that, we're going to bring the man, the myth, the legend, Kevin, the Baitman Baxter, on to the stage. What's up, Kev? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Happy New Year.
Yep. Same to you.
Happy New Year to you.
Yep, it is 8:34 our time, which means it is 7:34 your time. So thanks for joining us this evening and spending some time with us. Always enjoy getting people like you on the show. There's Aaron Strickland. We both know all about Aaron Strickland. You just kind of got to
He's a good dude. I really like Aaron. I've known him for several years now.
Yeah, Aaron is a good dude. I'm just giving you a hard time. So, JR, back to your Christmas and New Year's. How was it?
Good stuff, man. Got to spend time with the family, and most important about all this time is being with your family and celebrating what it's all about.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Sean. Appreciate you joining us. So, Kevin, if somebody didn't know who you were, how would you explain yourself? Give them a little bit about, give them a little spiel about yourself so they know who we're talking about.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm kind of a nobody, but I just got a pretty bad addiction to fishing tackle. I worked in the industry several years. I don't anymore. I actually have a real job. I'm just a lowly union steel worker that paints metal for a living. But I worked for a guy named Mike Otten. He lives in Indiana now. And we did this little TV show called Classic Patterns. And it was really popular. And I did video work and editing for several years on that TV show. And did another show called Lost Lake. That was on World Fishing Network. So I got to kind of dive head into the fishing industry on the business side and the video pre-YouTube side. And I got to meet a lot of pros and stuff like that. I'd always been a bass fishing nut, fish tournaments here on Kentucky Lake and everything. And I also worked in tackle shops on the side. And, for several years, I worked at a pretty legendary store at one time on Kentucky Lake called the Cabin Bait and Tackle, and another store, Kentucky Lake Outdoors, and kind of did the online thing. But I've always had a niche for just diving into a bait, whether it's a crankbait or soft plastic or something from Japan, just learning the most I can about the bait. Fishing them doesn't mean I'm always catching. To be honest, I'm probably not the best fisherman in the world, but usually if somebody puts something in front of my face, I've seen it and I can tell you the reason it works or doesn't work, the colors, where to get it, stuff like that. And honestly, it's just a bad habit. You call it my man cave. It's actually my carport garage that I've converted into a tackle room. And if this thing had a wide angle lens, you'd be like, holy crap. But to be honest with you, I do not think I have more tackle than the average guy. I may have more of a variety, but I've seen some of you guys like man caves and tackle rooms. I've seen Strick's garage. He's got more than I do. I think that's just part of being a fisherman. We all get addicted when we go out of town and go into a new shop. You see stuff your local store doesn't carry, you grab a little bit, or you're on Facebook. And I'm addicted to balsa baits, and I'm like, oh, I got to have that, so I'll order one or two. Or X bait company has a new bait coming out, and you have to get on there and you get it, and then you accumulate all this stuff. And there's no way I could fish with everything I've got. But for the most part, I do actually throw everything. I want to try it out, see what runs right. There's a lot of hype around baits in the industry, and I want to check it out, see if it's legit or not. And most of the time, no one's really just putting out junk. Everything's got a place or its own little niche. So I tell guys, fish what you like, fish what you want. Obviously, I got favorites, and some stuff I like collecting. I tell my wife, if something ever happens to me, just go grab that balsa crankbait box and hit my buddy Epic Eric up here on YouTube, and he'll tell you what it's worth, and he might make you a really good offer on it. So,
yeah, that's awesome, man. Again, it's good that you're spending your evening with us here, and you're talking about baits and how they work, and how you're kind of digging into trying to figure out which ones work and which one don't. Looking back there to your left, I see some Smithwick jerk baits back there, I believe, underneath that. Actually,
yeah,
probably to your left. I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, back here behind all these panoramas from 6 Cents. That, or I've got a bunch of
ones I'm looking at is like on that side you're pointing to up there underneath that terminal coffin.
Oh yeah. Sorry, in the box.
There.
So
yeah.
I'd get this down. My problem is I've got 8 more boxes stacked onto it. But I can point here and tell you, all these are old suspending rogues.
I got you.
This was really the first jerkbait I ever fished, and when I was about 7 years old, I believe 92 at Kentucky Lake, there was a Bassmaster Invitational here. Terrible weather, cold in the 50s, 40s, rain. And these guys came to Kentucky Lake, and they absolutely slayed big smallmouth. Like, we didn't even realize we had what we had. A Japanese angler won that. And, I got to be in a car ride with Larry Nixon, talk to him, and he just basically told me almost everybody was catching them on a rogue, which I already knew. And he told me the whole story about how they found all these smallmouth. And he said it was like they'd never seen a jerkbait before. But I always keep a bunch of rogues. Several of these have got the Mark Menendez signature on them. He had his signature line of Smithwick rogues before he was ever with Strike King. But that clown color is very famous, the gold with the red head. I like the ones with orange belly, so I've got some like Fire Tiger ones with orange belly when the water's a little dirty, chrome, blue back, orange belly. But that rogue, I tell guys that, there's high dollar mega bass, awesome baits. I own some, 6 Cents, makes a provoke. It's about half the price of mega bass. But best bang for buck, if you're just learning a jerk bait, a Smithwick rogue, and even though as they say suspending on them, they're not perfect. You're going to have to find a little bit of lead tape to get that, perfect buoyancy, but they're easy to work. They catch fish, and there's so many good colors in a rogue.
Yeah, the reason I was pointing those rogues out there, first off, I found this one just randomly in my closet the other day. It's a super rogue. It's like a spoonbill super rogue. This thing is giant. But anyway, what I was going to ask you is I've been throwing, you mentioned, mega bass jerkbait, been throwing the Vision 110 a lot lately. It's $25 a piece, man. But I've been throwing like 4 or 5 different brands of jerkbaits. I've been catching fish mainly on that mega bass, and I don't know the difference. Like I've been throwing the the 115 World Minnow that Shimano just come out with, and there was I'm throwing the Jackal Re-Range 110, and then I'm throwing what is it? It's a Rapala. I think it's a Shadow Wrap. I think is what it is, and then another one. I'll have to think of it here in just a second. But I swear, I've been throwing roughly the same color in the same area, and I don't know what it is. I don't know. I mean, what's your take on that? Why do you think they're eating the mega bass? Is it that much better than all other jerk baits?
I think there's a certain water temperature window that I found that you just can't beat that mega bass. And for me, it's like spring, and that water's like 52 to 60 degrees. It suspends really, really well, but it stops. I think a lot of people don't realize how well when you jerk, you rip that bait, and you don't do it anymore. It just stops dead in the water. And I think that's what triggers a lot of bait. It's actually got a lot more slash to it than like a Rogue rolls quite a bit. It turns, but it rolls a lot. That Vision, it really slashes and kicks sideways quite a bit. But when you stop it, it stops, especially in that cold water. And for a fish that's chasing, following it, I think that's what triggers a few more bites versus some other jerk baits. Now, when water warms up, I feel like, a Shadow Wrap's a really good jerk bait. A lot of guys don't talk about. And you said you were throwing. Water warms up and you want to move it faster where you're not sitting there holding 5, 6, up to 10 seconds. That's when that Jackal Rearrange, to me, catches a lot of fish. It's really good when you're working it fast. Like I said, I like the 6 cents Provoke really well. It suspends really good in that same 50 to 60 degree water temperature, but I actually catch them better once the water starts warming up just a little bit. But it's I'm not affiliated with Mega Bass, but I got a bunch of them. I got several of them sitting right here, and I've caught some really big fish on them. I've caught a lot of numbers on it. It's just something about that slash and that hard pause, and it stays like nose down, and those fish really don't.
There's a lot of talk on whether it's head down or even with the water column. I've heard a lot of people talk about that. What's your take on the new Stunna from Berkeley? I feel like it's kind of just a mimic of the 110, if you will.
Yeah, I mean it. You look at it. I mean Yozuri, Mega Bass, Spro, 6 cents. All four of those jerk baits are very similar to Vision 110. I mean, I think in that first classic, Hank was throwing a Vision 110, and then they come out with a Stunna, which I think Hank Cherry just left Pure Fishing.
Yeah, man, what's up with that, dude? Crazy. I mean, he was one of the big deals about creating the Stunna, right?
Yeah, I know, man. All I gotta say is fishing industry is wild. Guys are looking for more money. Companies are looking to spend less money, maybe. And sometimes it's not about money. Maybe it's creativity. You know what I mean? Maybe an angler wants more hands-on and product development, stuff like that. But as far as the Stunna, I've got a couple. They're pretty good baits,
I've got a lot of fish with it, man. Yeah. Scott Morris just told me to tell you hi.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hello, Scott.
Hey, guys.
He's a good dude.
Mark Hickey, I have not sold my boat. Matter of fact, I am against it now. I made a decision to keep the old Stratus. So over the summer, you guys know that I put the 2 Solix 15s on there. And then I was running the old the Minn Kota Fortrex, and I was not happy with it. And I had I had a pretty nice square body truck sitting here in my house that I bought 2 years ago that I had plans to fix up. And I bought it for a song, got a steal of a deal on it. And then I knew that it needed a new motor and a new transmission. I got the transmission fixed, drove it for 2 years, and the motor just finally went out on it. And I sold the thing the other day for the exact amount of money that an Alltrex Quest costs. So sold the truck for $4,000, bought the Quest for $4,000. Shout out to Malone's Marine for hooking that up. Those guys down there, they hooked me up and got that thing rigged for me. Went from 24 volts to 36 volts. But my goal now is I'm trying to get my hands on a live scope setup. Looking for, man, I was looking at the front of my boat, and the front of my boat is getting crowded. Like, I got a 15-inch Solix up there now, and I was looking at putting another 12-inch Garmin up there because we talked about it 100 times in the past on the show. I'm a huge Johnson Outdoors guy. Like, I love everything that's Humminbird and Minn Kota. I think they got a lot of stuff going on. I don't think that Raptors are for me, or power poles or anything. I don't fish that shallow that often where I can't use like Spot Lock or whatever. But you know, I wish that Humminbird would come out with a new version of their Mega Live. I don't know if they will or not. Which kind of sucks because I could buy one of those for like $1,500 if they were better. But now I'm looking at, you know, close to $4,000 for a 12-inch Garmin and then the LSV 34 system. But to be honest with you, unless I rearrange the front of my deck, I'm not sure a 12-inch graph is going to fit up there like heads up as opposed to being off one side or the other. So that's the deal, man. To answer your question, no, I didn't sell my rig. I still have it. I just put a brand new Ultrex Quest on it, and I'm telling you what, guys, I am not paid to use. I'm not paid to say this. I'm not affiliated with Johnson Outdoors at all. But I'm telling you what, JR was out there with me the other day. I have probably 35 to, I'd say on the low end, 35 rods in my boat, probably 1,000 pounds of lead and stuff, all my gear and everything. 4 lead acid batteries that are Odyssey batteries, and you know they're like 72 pounds a piece. They're nuts, and that thing on 10 pushes my boat over 4 miles an hour.
It's quiet too. I was impressed with it. It's definitely a lot quieter. I mean, getting brushless is a big deal, and how quiet that is. I mean, it has to have some effect on being able to sneak up on fish.
Yeah, John, I have a 2006 Stratus 201 Pro XL with a 2006 Evinrude E-Tech on it. And the E-Tech's probably got around 200 hours on it. I bought it used. And it only had, when I bought it, man, I got a freaking deal on it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I bought it in 2000. I think it was 2006. I bought it in 2016. It was 10 years old when I bought it. It was mint, freaking clean, didn't have anything. It was a second owner. A guy who bought it was from Tennessee, and the guy had, you know, a ton of money and bought new boats every year. And so this guy bought it off of him and didn't fish that much. He was a coon hunter, and then sold me the boat in 2016 for $20,000. And I took it directly to Freedom Outdoors at the time and dropped my boat off and had it overlooked and stuff. And they put it on their computers, and at the time it had 72 hours on the motor. So I've put well over that, probably triple that since I've owned it, but it's been a good rig. I like it. There's not much I can say about it. Eventually, I know that E-Tech's going to go. They all do. All motors do. So instead of spending $90,000 on a bass boat, I chose to just put my money in a trolling motor and run that thing until it blows up. Then I'll put a new 4-stroke on there and call it a day. Hopefully, it'll last me longer than I do.
Dude, those old Stratus holes are really good holes. There's no shame in having a 201 Pro Stratus. I actually looked at one not long ago.
It's it's a good big water boat, man. I've been in St. Clair and probably fives. I've been in some big water in bass boats, but biggest I've ever had it was in St. Clair. Like I said, we were on every bit of 5-footers, and we'd take one over the bow every now and again, but it stayed dry the whole time. And I'm a big proponent of, I don't care what boat you're in, it's how you drive it. Like if you're going to drive like an idiot, you're going to get wet in any boat. Yeah. And so, ever fished the black level balsa crankbaits? And so, I have personally never even heard of them, to be honest with you.
Yes. Actually, that's a good question, Kevin. I have fished the black label balsa crankbaits quite a bit. You know, they're made by Cliff Pace. They're in Louisiana, former classic champion, Cliff Pace. And he's got a bunch of Ed Chambers. If you know who Ed is, he used to make owned Zoom, and he also had the Zoom WEC crankbait. He's got his old tools for making balsa, his machines and stuff. And Cliff makes an excellent bait. And as far as mass balsa crankbaits, you know, there's lots of builders that build out of their garage or their shop, and they don't sell to Tackle Warehouse, and you got to get off Facebook and whatnot. Cliff makes the best mass-produced balsa crankbaits that are out there. I've got several of them. I like his wreck. I like he's got one called a bacon that's a really good bait. He's got some stuff that mimics the old Zoom mutt and hickeys. They're really good. Cliff does a really good paint job. He paints his own baits. He makes them all. He tunes everyone before it goes in a package to sell. So if you're out at your local shop or you're on Tackle Warehouse or wherever, local shops you got near you, Tyler, if you get a chance to grab a black label balsa bait, I definitely would. They all run really good. One thing I want people to know about a balsa crankbait, people always say, well, I want balsa. What's better, balsa or plastic? Well, I'm not saying balsa catches more fish. It does seem that in cold water conditions, that balsa seems to be a little bit more workable. Like fish seem to like the way they rise a little bit slower in cold water, and the way they react more in warm water. Balsa is really inconsistent, and that's what makes it different and good. Like you can have 10 baits that look just the same and they're all in tune, but they're all different because the material and consistency in balsa is not like ABS plastic where you can just stamp 500 out and pretty much they're all going to run the same. You buy 5 balsa baits in the same color, same style, you're going to get that one that just got a little bit extra hunting action. It's just a little bit different. Maybe it tracks a little bit off, but then it gets back to center really quick. That's what you look for in balsa. You want something that's just a little bit different, a little inconsistent. And you hear guys talk about chatterbaits and jackhammers. Oh, I got one that hunts, or the old Bagleys were notorious about. You get that one that won't just run straight; it kind of zigzag. That's what you look for in balsa. And it's hard to replicate that action in ABS plastic.
Yeah, and so this is funny. This is a good story. I think you'll enjoy it, being the Baitman and all. I've been throwing the Spro Little John Type R for the last 2 or 3 years, and dude, I absolutely love that crankbait. But one of the things, it was funny this past summer. Let's see, summer before last. So year and a half ago, I was throwing this Rayburn Red Type R at St. Clair, and I saw somebody posted St. Clair there a while ago. St. Clair is the best place on earth to fish, in my opinion. But I was throwing this thing. It's red, man. It's like bright red, and it was in June, and I was absolutely wrecking fish on this thing. And I knew I should have retied. I knew I should, like, you start catching fish and you're going like, I'll retie next time. Freaking here it goes out into the no man's land. I'm out fishing, 2 miles offshore. I put my trolling motor on high at the time, running down, try to find it, and I never did find it. So I was kind of disheartened, tied another one on, and started catching fish on it. And about 20 minutes later, my buddy Dusty, who was fishing in another boat with me on the trip, sends me a picture of a fish he caught with my crankbait. Like he saw my crankbait floating by his boat, knew that it was mine, tied it on, and started catching fish on it. He caught fish on it all day. End of the day, he hands me the lure back, and I put it in like a bait box, and I set it in my truck that day, and it was there all summer. And then fast forward until January 1st, 2023, there's a tournament at Grayson Lake. I just see it laying in my deck or on my truck. So I was like, I'll take this thing. So I took it on in my boat, tied it on that day. I ended up catching 2 bass on it, first and big bass on that bait. So like it's got a wild story.
Yeah, that Type R, it's a really good bait. A lot of guys don't realize they make that model, Little John. It's got a rattle on it. I bought a couple years ago. The spring crawl, Little John MD, and every spring here on Kentucky Barkley Lakes. If you're a tackle store, you better have 100 in stock, and you'll sell them because when they start biting it, everybody catches them. But what's funny is we talk about balsa and that Little John. This is actually the bait John Cruz talked about in a video about a year or so ago that inspired the Little John. This is they call this the baby pig. It was originally made, a guy in Eastern Kentucky made it, and this one is a remake. It's probably the most famous one. A guy named Norm Coulter in Indiana makes these, and this was the bait that really inspired the Little John. You can tell the body's similar. This has got a micarta build to it. These are actually really, really hard to get. But that's kind of a cool story how balsa baits have inspired a lot of, normal hard baits and, baby pig, Little John. But awesome little bait. These are hard to get. I've been offered a couple $100 for some of mine. I won't sell them. I will throw them. Believe it or not, I don't. They got incredible action. And again, that colder water, you can tell a big difference the way that wiggles and it hits something. It's got this really wicked, slow, almost suspending rise to it.
Awesome.
Whereas,
yeah, so that's there's a guy, and I'm sure you've heard of him. I think he's here in Ohio, or maybe he's down your way. Phil Hunt, PH.
Yeah, Phil makes good baits. PH Custom Lures, yeah. Phil makes good stuff.
Yeah, somehow he's friends of mine friends on Facebook with me. I'm sure it's just who knows who added who, but I have just recently started seeing his stuff and digging into it. His balsa baits look really cool too.
Yeah, Phil's been building for a long time. He makes some good stuff. He's really good at finding like a plastic bait and making his own version of it. He doesn't make maybe the color schemes that Cliff does, and I think that's what's unique is he's more of a Midwest guy. Cliff's down there in South Louisiana, so there's obviously some differences, but they're both really good builders.
That's awesome. Bass and Passion. I am uber jealous that's your home lake. I would move to Michigan. As bad as I hate the football team, I would move there if it didn't get cold. Like, it gets frigid there, but like, I've met some of the nicest people. Football and all that stuff aside, I will say that Michigan gets a bad rap from everybody in Ohio, but I've literally never. I've ran across a couple people, but Michiganders are really nice people for the most part, and you guys have some of the best fishing on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Good outdoorsman up there for sure. So you talked a little bit about all these new balsa baits coming out. So knowing that balsa is kind of your passion, there's been a big step up for these big bait companies to start producing these now. What's your take on the Rapala production, Slim, and also Strike King's got some now too?
Yeah. So I kind of joked where Berkeley was talking about some new. They're advertising one of their new baits. It's better than balsa, and I'm like, well, that's pretty ballsy to say that, but I get it. The Rapala stuff, the OG Slims, dude, I got a box full of them. They're really good baits. They actually, a story about that bait. Rapala used to make a bait called a DT flat. They made a DT flat 7, a 9, and a 3, and they actually made one called the DT Troll that went to 16 foot. But so Ott was actually taking that DT3. It had more of a coffin lip to it, a short, square coffin lip, and he was pulling the lip out and replacing it with a computer board round thumbnail lip. They call that material micarta. So at the classic of the one he won in Knoxville, he actually gave Mike Iaconelli a couple of his handmaids to say, hey man, here's the deal around here. There's a reason we don't like the square, bill. I've modified these for years. Ike ends up catching several fish on it. They basically, Ike flexes his muscle and say, hey man, y'all need to get with y'all need to do this. And that DT flat, I've got a bunch of the original ones. I really like the 7. I'm not good at throwing a shad wrap, so I throw it, and I catch a lot of fish on it. But that East Tennessee Highland reservoirs, they fish over there. It's got a lot of rock in it, and so everyone thinks square bill and rock, and square bill does all right, but that round lip does not get hung and like riprap and that shallow rock near what a square bill does, and it really deflects hard. And so Ott and Rapala come up with the OG and the Slim, and it's basically his take on an older Rapala bait. It's a good bait. I'm not a big fan of the hooks. I changed the hooks out on it. It dives a little deeper than most baits in that category. You can get 6-7 foot out of it pretty easily. But you're seeing a lot of companies, they're trying to go back to the old school stuff. I was thinking the other day at work, the old Rebel ringworm, the Hugh Harville ringer. you're seeing lots of companies that got rings on the worms now. They're bringing some of that stuff back. It's kind of everywhere, and the newer audience of today, they don't realize some of these soft plastics that are coming out had been around 20 years ago. It's just they kind of had their time, and now they're coming back out. But Strike King had some balsa baits at one time. They don't have any right now. I'm still pretty tight with those guys. I don't know if they have any plans, but you could still find some. They're called like an old school balsa, and a guy named Kelly Stooksbury and Mimic Lures actually cut and did those baits for Strike King, and they're pretty desirable if you can find some. They had a Shad Rap style bait that was really, really good.
Nice. Yeah, Chuck says he's a big walleye fisherman. This is my buddy who's a walleye guide. Tail Dancer 9s on Lake Erie. Pretty good. Ricky says he puts in at Toledo and run up to St. Clair so he doesn't have to drive through Itchigan. OHIO. Maybe next year. I don't know. I would say it's crazy.
So I'm in kind of a conundrum because I'm not a Michigan football fan at all. I'm a big college football fan. You follow me on Facebook, Tyler. You know I get silly sometimes. But I am not. I am definitely not. I would root for the Taliban over Alabama. I would root for them over Alabama. So I was kind of in conundrum, but you know what? I'm not a go SEC guy. I root for the Vols. Unfortunately, it's like get kicked in the nuts every day. But I'm not going to root for someone just because they're SEC. So I'm actually really excited to see Michigan and Washington in the college football championship. I will be rooting for Washington because I like that it's not the same 4 teams every year, and I think Washington has the best team in the land.
Yep, they're it's going to be good. I watched both games last night, and I really enjoyed watching football again because I really didn't have I get so torqued up and like about Ohio State football, and it's like at the end of the day, guys, these are 18 to 25-year-old, young adults here, so I get torqued up about it. But last night I got to watch some football just to watch football, and it made me really think about what was going on there. So let me think, but hopefully, we got Tennessee here. Let's go. Pain is real. Yeah, I would say, I don't know. So,
I like Ohio State, so I might be the only guy in Western Kentucky that actually roots for them. I mean, obviously I'm a Tennessee fan, but I don't have a problem with Ohio State. I think they play pretty good football most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. So right now, my water temperature, I've been out the last few days, and the water temperature is crazy here. It's not, we don't get hard water season here, which I'm thankful for. It means I can get outside and fish when it gets warm enough not to freeze my rear end off. I will say that Stormer, if you've never fished anything that Stormer makes, they are the bee's knees for cold weather gear. If it's like sub 40 degrees until it gets to 40 degrees, 45, 50 maybe max. I wouldn't even wear them at 50. 50 is pushing it. But anything sub 40 degrees, the Stormer striker suit, man, allows me to stay out there a lot longer and fish. But I've been out there the last few days. The water temperature has fluctuated from the highest I saw, which was about 3 weeks ago, was 53 degrees. And then I've been fishing the same location for the last 3 weeks because I continually catch fish in this location, and I've heard of some absolute hammers come out there. I've seen some pictures of 7+ pounders, and the water temperature today 41.5 degrees. We talked about jerk baits. What other cold weather bait would you have in your arsenal for water that? I mean, it's fairly cold in my opinion. 41 degree water temperature.
41 degrees. I usually play the Xbox instead of go fishing. But no, I have fished in some really cold water. It's really hard to beat an A-rig. That sounds like the textbook. Oh, I just throw A-rig. It's really cold, and I'm not a huge fan of it, but it does work. It seems like in the last few years, the trend's also turned to going to that single swimmer, like that Finesse Kitech, little 2.5, 3-inch swim bait on some 8-pound fluorocarbon. Now with forward-facing sonar, guys are really leaning on stuff like that. I like a blade bait too. What I call a meat bait. You don't catch anything if it's around a blade bait to catch one, from catfish to smallmouth to stripes. I do not feel like at 41, 42 degree water, it's too cold to crank. And if I'm going to throw a crankbait, it's a little cold for me to throw my flat side because I want to target some more vertical structure. I like a Strike King Series 3 or go old school and get a little Bandit 200. Catch a lot of fish on those baits in really cold water, or a Series 4 Strike King. Really good cold water crankbaits. They kind of get down there, and once they get the bottom, you can get that 5-to-1 ratio reel and just tick the bottom real slow. And if there's a fish around and they're wanting to feed, it's moving. It's not moving too fast, and they can grab it. But I like to throw like on a glass rod in real cold water because the bites aren't real aggressive. They just kind of come up and nip at it, or they just trying to push it down to the bottom. And you want to feel that fish before it feels you in that glass. I think Shimano X Pride makes an awesome glass cranking rod. You want to feel them before they feel you. And that cold water, you want a rod that's real parabolic because they're not going to come up and jump. They're going to kind of dig and want to stay going to the bottom. The flex in those glass or composite rods really allows you to get those fish in the boat. But I'm a big fan of the Series 3, man. Everyone likes 3XD and all that, and I've learned from filming Mark Menendez and other pro guys that Series 3 just catches.
It does. So yeah, you mentioned that X Pride. I think I have one of the X Pride. I have the 7-foot. I think it's a 7-foot medium X Pride glass composite. I really like it a lot too. I've been throwing a lot of crankbaits on. One of my favorite glass composite rods right now, and I just picked it up, was a 610 medium Poison Adrena from Shimano. Man, it's a stick and a half.
Yeah, I like those X Prides and the Poison Adrenas. I don't have the budget for them because I spend it all on baits, but they're really good. Yeah. I don't sacrifice on the baits. I sacrifice on my rods and reels sometimes. But I was a Daiwa guy. I really love Daiwa stuff, but I've got back on a Shimano train ever since the SLX came out. I've got several of those. I'm fixing to buy some new Corrados. And my favorite reel of all time is the E7 and the old Chronarch E series.
Chronarch E, yeah. So that's a funny story. I just sold 7 of them this summer.
God dang it!
Yeah, I just I've been fishing Shimano for a long time. Matter of fact, I think my first spinning rod was a Shimano FX. I think you can pick one of those things up steel, but they're like $19. You know what I mean? These things are old school, like plastic gears. Are awesome stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that Shimano's got coming out. But you're talking about the SLX. I said last week on the show, and I still stand behind it. This is the heel that I'll always die on here. That if you're looking for a budget friendly reel, it's not super high priced, and you're looking for something that fishes well and it's going to get you in the ditches, it's going to be SLX XT. I really like that reel a lot. I like the external brake adjustment. That basically that's the old Corrado, the old green style Corrado that everybody went crazy for back in the 90s and 2000s.
There's my E series right there.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I just sold 7 Chronarch E6s and E7s this summer. But I'm fishing. Most of my crankbaits rods are the Corrado 70 series. I like it a lot. But yeah, it's really tough to beat. My favorite reel right now, all time, probably. I don't know. Well, you can't not say anything about the Metanium, but you're talking $500. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it is what it is. But that SLX XT, if you're looking for the DC, the SLX DC is really good too. The Corrado lineup is just stupid nice for the price. You get in something like, I just picked up a Chronarch MGL. Actually, I have 2 of them. I have an 8 series on a NRX Plus 894 for jigs and stuff, and then I put that 6 gear ratio Chronarch MGL on that new 610 medium glass rod from Adrena, or the Poison Adrena I bought the other day. But I don't care what you buy with Shimano, and it's not just Shimano, man. Like there's some. I used to fish back in the day, and I don't want to run anybody under the bus, but I used to fish some Quantum stuff back in the day, like years ago, and it was just like I don't know. I mean, I think there's a reason that KVD switched from them, but
there's a night and day difference. Several years ago when Quantum had the PT Energy, had that iridescent looking reel, they were heavy. Those were good reels. Like I had some that were battle tested, and then in the last 10, I agree with you. There's a reason KVD left Quantum, other than probably money and the whole Strike King lose merger. But.
Yeah, for sure. But it's I don't know. Like I said, I'm really partial and really I'm biased towards Shimano and G Loomis, obviously, because they're an affiliate of my channel. But I fish what I like. But I get, and I'm sure you get this too a lot of times, like fishing high dollar baits and stuff. And people are like, "Oh, it must be nice to fish that stuff." It's like, I pay for it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm out there grinding for it. I'm putting out 3 to 5 videos a week, and I'm trying to do all this stuff, and that's why I'm able to do this. But in the grand scheme of things, man, if you're out there catching fish, I don't give a damn if you're catching them on a freaking Zebco 33 with a rhino rod.
There's been a lot of 6-pounders caught on a Zebco 33 with a beetle spin. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're trying to do the content creation thing we talked a little bit about here, and you got a full-time job. You're a teacher, and I respect that. I wouldn't want to deal with these kids all the time. I can barely deal with my two, but I work a full-time job, 48, 60 hours a week, sometimes more. And it's cliche to say, but if you want nice things, you got to work for it. And, I buy some high dollar baits and stuff like that, but I'm not just sitting on my butt. I'm hustling. I'm either working or, I've recently started selling a lot of stuff, just stuff I don't use, or I'm buying stuff off Facebook Marketplace, getting good deals. And I'm selling them on this little app called Whatnot. Strix bought some stuff from me, and I'm trying to get stuff that's not you just walk in the academy and buy, older, discontinued, whether it's soft plastics or hard baits. And, I've got like 30 wiggle warts I just bought in like the best colors. I spent $500 on this deal. But, you're not just going to walk in the store and find OG wiggle warts anymore. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Make a few extra dollars, clearing out some stuff that I've got, multiples of, but I end up spending the money to, buy more stuff. But
yeah, for sure. Strick, it took me a minute to figure out what you're doing there. You're a Scorpion fan. I get it now. So I was like, what is that? It's a Scorpion, Shimano Scorpion. I get it. They are the really nice reels.
So I'm going to brag on Strick a little bit, and this is related to fishing. So he texts me this late spring. His wife or something's in Paducah. It's just 30 minutes from me, and we're wanting to fish together. But I'm working. I'm on a weird afternoon shift. I really can't get away, and plus I'm having to go in early. And so he's a river rat, and he's like, "Is there anything good here in Ohio River?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Man, not really. I mean, there's a few. Really, the Tennessee Cumberland's where you want to be." This dude texted me that evening of like a 6-pounder he caught in the Ohio River around Paducah. I'm like, dude, that's the biggest one I've ever seen. And
yeah,
like,
I remember the picture he posted. It was a monster.
Yeah.
Tennessee. Speaking of Strick, Tennessee said nice or killer looking bullet. Man, if you don't have him on social media, you should go check it out. He's got one of the best looking bullets I've ever seen. The old Black Widow is an amazing piece of equipment. I'm not a huge bullet fan, but he's got that one right. 300 Merc on that thing, probably close to 100-mile-an-hour boat, I'd imagine.
Scary.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we ask everybody on our show, and this is going to be really tough for you. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now because you know so many baits and you use so many baits and whatever. So we ask everybody on our show, not to put you on the spot or anything, but we always ask if you were to have to choose one bait for the rest of your life to fish, and that only. If they said, you know what, you get to fish the rest of your life, you don't have to work, but you get a lifetime supply of one bait. It doesn't matter if it's springtime or super hot summer. What's one bait that you're going to choose?
This one might come off. As much as I like crankbaits, you might be surprised, but I know exactly what it is, and it's a 6-inch Baxter paddle tail. I've been in love with that bait since I first fished it years ago before they got super popular, and I've learned a lot about that bait, and I've caught a ton of fish on it. And to me, it's as versatile as a spinner bait. I can throw it up shallow, I can throw it deep, I can fish it mid-water column, I can slow roll on the bottom, I can rig it to fish up near the top. I've caught a lot of fish on that bait, and a lot of guys have gotten into different swim baits and glide baits and all that, but that I can catch them on a bass tricks in the winter, the spring, the summer, the fall. They're not super durable, so I would need a lifetime supply of them. But I love that Bass Tricks. It just brings back a lot of memories for me when Kentucky Lake was in its prime. Those things were $10-12 a pack, and you get on a ledge bite and you might go through 10 packs in one day. But it's just I love the way they eat that thing. It's kind of addicting, especially if you got it on a beast hook and you're reeling it on the outside of a lay down, and they just come up and choke it, and you see them roll on it like a spinnerbait, or out deep, you're just slow rolling. They about to take the rod out from you. I love that bait, and I love the feel of catching one on it.
That's awesome. So yeah, right before I ask you the second question here, I'm going to show you something really quick. This is kind of stuff this is in the I don't know, the phase of me designing it, but this is a new 7-inch glide bait that I'm working on.
That was sweet.
So I'm working on now trying to figure out a way to cut this wedge in here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not totally designed yet, but it's going to be I don't know, if I get them done, and I'll send you one of them, you can maybe catch a fish on one. But I have a little different ability than most other people, and the fact that I have a CNC router, so I can create these things in a fairly easy way here. To not really easy, but I design it in 3D and then let the machine mill it out,
right,
and cut that V in it. So I get them done. I'll send you one. You check it out. Next thing, this is, I don't know, this is probably, again, harder for you because you're so into baits, but I think the last question is we ask people on here is, now that now that we know what you would choose if you had to add one bait to your arsenal for the rest of your life, what's one bait that you feel like is overrated? Mine is a whopper plopper. I think that they're just like, I don't know. It's like the good and plenties of the world.
The Smarties.
Dude, Smarties are awesome.
The candy corn of baits.
I like candy corn too. I'm that guy.
Man, I'll be honest. I don't know if I could argue against the whopper plopper. Awesome bait, catches a lot of fish, but I feel in the last few years they've kind of turned away from it here. I made a video on this one time. I think the wiggle wart is actually a really overrated bait. Now, if you're fishing Cumberland, you're fishing Bull Shoals, you're fishing Table Rock Ozarks, springtime of year, probably, that's number one. But the rock crawler is so good. Strike King's got a new one coming out called a Gravel Dog. The 6 Cents Curve 55 they're all very similar. I don't get why people pay $40-50. I mean, I do get it, but there's collectors out, and you get that one bait, that magical bait, and you catch them on it, you got to have another one. But I feel the new wiggle warts are as good as the old ones. So I would say the wiggle wart is pretty overrated. Now it's perfect for a guy who likes to buy and resell because you make plenty of money on them. But fishing wise, man, there's so many good options available now. Whereas 10 years ago, you really just maybe had the rock crawler and that was it. But now you got several different brands making a similar style bait.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of a weirdo when it comes to the rock crawler. They definitely have a spot Cumberland. They chew them down there, but that bait gets hung up more than any other crankbait I've ever seen in my entire life.
It is a rock catcher. Sometimes it doesn't really crawl. It like sticks to them.
Yeah, it's like you throw in the middle and still hook something out there. You're like, holy crap! These things are like, I like them. I really like that mud or the red bug collar that everybody goes crazy for. The pink one is really good. I like them all, but I've been throwing a lot of crazy baits lately and trying to get some new techniques going on. Been throwing a blade bait a lot. I've been throwing I can't get my hands on many of them anymore because Jackal apparently sells them out as soon as they sell them. But the Daracoup, which is a tail spinner, kind of like the Booger Custom Baits. He's got Chris Malone won the Toyota Series Championship on that bait. It seems to be pretty good, but this summer I was having a hard time. Well, not having a hard time, but harder time catching fish at St. Clair. and there was it was full of grass. I've never seen St. Clair have that much grass in it this year in my life that I've been up there in the last 7-8 years. But I was through that thing and I was keeping it above the grass, dude. I had so much fun. I was throwing it on like a 872 NRX Plus, and dude, you could just tick that grass with that thing, and all of a sudden you just get absolutely murdered. Loved it.
Yeah, I fished St. Clair. Oh golly, this makes me feel old. Probably in 2005. It was me and Joe Thomas. First TV show I ever got to be a part of and film. It was me, Joe Thomas, and Mike Alton. Joe had a guy from the military on, and when I was at St. Clair, there was a lot of grass, and you could see the grass lines and all that. We were just, drifting tubes by, and the first big smallmouth I hung on in there, I was like, dude, that thing kicked my butt. I love that lake. I've been back 2 more times since then, and I haven't even been to it in the last 4 or 5 years where it's really, really good. But, man, you talk about a lake you can have fun on and experiment with a bunch of different stuff, different jerk baits, lipless baits, blade baits. And you can do the Ned, the soft plastic, whatever. It's actually got really good largemouth fishing too.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. Me and Jared was up there this year. I'm 5 hours roughly from St. Clair. I can get the 9 Mile ramp in about 5 hours, so it's not it's an easy drive for me. So I'm up there 5 times a year at least. But went up in April this past year, me and Kyle, but my best friend Kyle, and we absolutely tore a bone out of him, man. We were up there 2.5 days, caught 157 smallmouth. 40 of them were over 4 pounds. 7 of them were over 5 pounds, with a 515 being the biggest one. And we were catching them all in 6 foot or less in water on crankbaits. It was an absolute, it was crazy. But the grass is, hey,
she
grass
knows
is
I'm on YouTube, so she's got to make sure she makes it on video.
for sure, man. Yeah. Jared kids normally makes it.
Normally make an appearance or two.
Yeah, man. Wiggleworts are tough to beat on the Ohio River. What's up, Worm? I just going to tell you, your buddy who's catching those fish at Grayson is definitely a better fisherman than I am. I went out there and I caught some fish, but I ain't caught 27 in one day, and I damn sure ain't caught a 7-pounder. So I'm gonna have to, he's gonna have to hit me up with some spots or something. I don't know. But anywho, we are at that 50-minute mark, guys. If you have any questions for Mr. Baxter, drop them below. Kevin, I appreciate you joining.
Hey, not a problem. That's the quickest 50 minutes I've been around in a long time.
Yeah, if we keep the stuff going, everybody else making some comments here, it's actually really cool stuff. So, it's, I don't know, this time of year it's really tough to make content. So if you guys are out there and you're watching my YouTube channel, and I appreciate it if you guys are just now joining, I've got like 140 some new subscribers this month, which is I'm going to I'm going to say that's due to YouTube Shorts. Kevin and I were talking about that earlier. And I do want to apologize for those of you guys that are hardcore fans of mine that are waiting for those longer videos. I do have them coming out every week. And I know you guys are getting inundated with Shorts notifications, but it's boosted my channel by 1,000% this month. Like, it's been crazy. So I do want to say that. But if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate it if you would. And there is a question. What's your next Whatnot sale?
Yeah. So for those who don't know what Whatnot is, it's basically like eBay Live. There's an app you can download to your phone, Android or iPhone, and it's live auction. So it's actually started out in the sports card community, which I got into because of my sons. I've been buying sports cards and stuff, and for a way to sell sports cards. Well, long story short, this company contacts me. Say, hey, we watch. Someone pointed us to your YouTube channel, and you've got all these baits and stuff. Would you be interested in selling some on our app? And I'm doing my research. I'm like, well, I already am on the app. And I said, sure. And so it's basically a live eBay. So if I said, hey, I've got this 6 cents hangover, its bidding starts at $5. I give it for 30 seconds and you can bid. And you link it up with your PayPal account and all that. And it's actually really cool for a buyer. There's a lot of scamming that's been going on online, especially on social media and whatnot. Where someone pays for something and doesn't get shipped. So as a seller, if I sell something, I don't get my money until 48 to 72 hours after the package just hit your door and says delivered. So that kind of keeps the people honest about it. But it's a really cool deal. My next one, I was going to do it tomorrow night, but I was actually going to do a YouTube video of me unboxing what I was going to sell. So I don't want to do them backwards. But probably be this weekend sometime. Again, I'm going to have some old wiggle warts, a lot of vintage crankbaits, stuff like that. But it's a pretty cool app. You can find a link to it on my Facebook page or something like that. And I think I might have a link on my YouTube channel. You can go and look at the past ones because I'll do a stream on Whatnot and YouTube and Facebook, so people can get interactive. But it's a cool deal. If you ever need to hustle up a little side money, decide you want to upgrade your depth finders, get some live scope, find about $1,500 of baits and put them up there. You never know. It's blown my mind what people will pay for. And I'm honest. I'm like, hey, I start these things at $1, not to get a bunch of bids, but for y'all to sneak up and grab some stuff at cheap prices. But I did sell a Jackal bow stick the other night for about $70. I was really blown away.
Nice. But, yeah. So that's so you say it's live. So people have how long? Like you say that. How long can you put the stuff up there for? Did you say 30 seconds?
Yeah. So you can do like 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 45 in a minute. And what I found out early on, you put something up for a minute, it's a long time. Like people that want it, they've already decided they're going to bid, or you can sit and say, I'm going to pay up to $10 on this, and you can put that as your max bid. And if someone bids over, whatever. Yeah. And then there's sudden death where you give it 10 seconds, and if you don't get a bid in by 1 second, it's gone. So you see people just bidding like crazy. When the clock at 0, it's gone. Whereas I do them for 30 seconds. Every time there's a bid, it adds like 5 seconds to the counter. But just however you want to do it. It's a really cool deal, actually. It's worked out really good. I've made some extra bait money and stuff on there. Eventually, I want to buy a bass boat again. I had one for years, and I sold it when my son was born, and I hadn't got another one. And I'm thinking, man, I think I can make a little extra to make a little boat payment here if I need to. So like I said, that's why I was just looking at a Stratus, a 201. So I know they're good holes, and I've rode in several, and I don't want to make a lot of payments, so I want to find something I can afford, which is kind of hard now.
Yeah. So before we let you get off here, I got to see that hangover again you had there.
All right. Yeah. Let's talk about this bait real quick. I am affiliated with 6 Sense Fishing. I don't like the term pro staff, and I really don't like influencer. So I just say, I'm like their bait dude. But this is the hangover. This is the bait that Ben Milliken's been throwing for over a year, and it took forever to get this thing dialed in for mass production. They could make 3 or 4, and they'd get 10 that weren't right. But really unique here. It's got some similarities to like the old Osprey and the 316. But unlike a mag draft, I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, this is a mag draft." It's not really close. Maybe the eye, but it has an internal weight system right here. This one's transparent. You probably can't see it on the YouTube or the video screen, but it's got a little hole right here. So it's a line through. So you run your line up and you tie it to a treble hook that comes out the back separate. So when that bass grabs it up here, he pulls the hook, the bait shoots up. You don't tear your bait up. But you can also put a split ring on here and put a treble on the bottom. So you could rig it line through, but also have a hook down here as well. Or, you can run it just like a mag draft, just a treble on the bottom. But the tail's really unique. It's not just a paddle tail. It's not a boot tail. It's kind of what I like to call like a heart. I've seen those in swim baits before.
It looks like a guitar pick.
Yeah. It reminds me of a baby carp, to be honest with you guys. Like instead of like a gizzard shad, it looks like a baby silver carp. But they eat this thing. This is one of the biggest bait drops 6 Sense ever had. Supposedly they made almost 30,000 units, and they're pretty close to sold out. But what's really unique, I like about a line through is one, fighting a fish. The weight of the bait slides out of the way, so it's just you and a treble hook. 2, I like to fish a lot of stumps, suspended brush. The problem with a mag draft or a harness swim bait, if you're getting it down there, is that treble will tick and boom, it's hung up. Well, you run that treble up top, you got the ability to get down right over the top of the brush or over the top of some grass or stump. You know, if that head hits it, it just kind of might flip over that stump and not get hung up. But yeah, really cool bait. And they got 3 sink rates: slow sink, medium, and fast. If you want to grab one, I actually recommend the fast, and the reason is it's heavier, so it's going to track a lot easier at a faster reel speed. It's not going to want to roll over and stuff like that. Whereas the slow sink, that's just more of a shallow water deal, or maybe you're fishing Lanier or Altoona and you're fishing over big cane piles and stuff, and you're only wanting to get down to 4 or 5 foot of water. It's going to sink really slow. But the less weight, you got to reel it even slower because, they tend to want to roll. And that's kind of an all swim bait deal. Guys have made these slow sink, soft plastic swim baits for years, and people say, "Oh, I can't burn it." Well, not meant to burn. So,
yeah, this guy wants to know if the weight is encased in plastic so it doesn't discolor the bait.
yes, it actually is kind of a plastic case inside here. You can almost see it. You see the lead. I don't know if y'all can see that. See that right there? There's the lead right there. But inside this little square piece, it's actually a piece of plastic, and you can almost see that. See that right there? There's the plastic,
Oh yeah,
and
you
then
can see
there's
it
the
now.
lead there inside that. So, like on the old Ospreys and like some of the California Swim Babies, stuff like that, that had a lead insert in there, especially the Ospreys, oxidization happens. Once they've been in the water or been in a package and you start to get a little bit of moisture, that lead oxidizes and you'll start seeing your bait get a big white, creamy film. It looks like someone put snot all over it. That's what happens. And so that actually will help with this bait to keep the oxidization from happening.
I'm gonna guess that you're SOL, bud. It's you get what you buy. It's slow, medium, or fast, and that's it.
Yep. Yeah, Sean. To take the weight out, you would basically you'd have to get inside the bait. Now, I always say this on the swim bait world. People say, "What do I want? I want a slow, a medium, or a fast sink?" Especially in hard baits. If I'm fishing a hard bait swim bait, my choice is always slow sinking. It's easier to add weight than it is to take weight away. So if maybe you don't think a fast sink hangovers for you, go with the medium and buy some nail weights. And this thing's got enough beef here on the side. You can just insert those nail weights right here back behind the fin or right here under the chin to get this thing to sink a little bit faster. It don't take much. I mean, 2, 3 30-second nail weights, it will sink quite a bit faster.
I was noticing that thing is thick up towards the head of that thing. When you had it sideways, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's not super skinny at all, and it was built like that because Ben has shown ways that he puts weight in these things to adjust sink rates and stuff like that. And we used to do that with the Osprey, the Top Talon, one of my favorites of all time. Sometimes you get some and they'd run a little sideways, and you had to counterweight it with some nail weights.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I wasn't
guys,
one of those, and now I want one.
What is it now?
I wasn't going to buy any of those, and now I want one. Great.
Yeah, that's why.
I'm trying not to be a salesman this time. I'm trying to be kind of a bait educator. So
yeah, that's cool. Well, guys, we're at that 1 hour mark, so we're not going to keep Kevin any longer. Kevin, I appreciate you, the heck out of you coming out. And
hey, man, anytime. I know we were going to get together a few years ago, and I got to working, missed each other, and I'm glad you reached out to me. I feel like we could talk for another couple hours if we wanted to.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like I said, I'm off all summer, so I'll get with you. Maybe you get a stretch off of working those swing shifts. I'll come down, bring my boat, do some fishing or something down there. Show me what's up on Kentucky Lake. I know it's really tough to catch them down there because of the Asian carp right now, but it'd be fun to get in a boat.
Just keep telling people how tough it is down here. You're going to see some big weights this spring.
Well, I hope so. But like I said, I'll get a hold of you. We'll do some fishing. Maybe we can go out and make some content together. I appreciate it. It'll be awesome. Man. But like I said, I appreciate you coming on. If you'll hang out for just a second, we'll end this. We'll wrap this thing up, and then I'll talk to you in just a second. So, guys, appreciate you guys sticking around for this episode of On Another Line Live. Again, I cannot thank you guys enough for all the support on my YouTube channel over the past few months and years even. I'm fast approaching that 5,000 subscriber mark, which is, it's a hill of beans to a lot of people, but it means a lot to me. I'm trying to get to 5,000 My goal is 10,000 by the end of this coming year, because I've never really pushed my channel as much as I'm going to do this year. I'm going to be creating some content, doing some other things that you're going to see. But with that being said, I have a really high goal. My first goal is hit that 5,000 subscriber mark. So if you guys, lie to people, send them text messages like, look, this dude knows exactly what he's talking about. You should watch his stuff. Little white lie never hurt anybody.
Very handsome hosts.
Yeah, well, somebody is. Anyway, I've had a great time talking to you, Kevin. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for joining us for this hour and 5-minute talk about fishing. But you guys know what's up. If you guys can, get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time on Another Line.